Ah, just look at the news. It turns out that those terrorists who planned the Paris attack used Tor systems. Why don't they just get rid of it?
What do you mean? Just because terrorists use something doesn't mean that it should be taken away. After all, terrorists use social media and you don't see anyone trying to take down Facebook and Twitter.
But it's not just terrorists. All sorts of people use Tor for criminal activities. After all, why would they feel the need to hide if they're not doing something wrong, right?
There are actual legitimate reasons for people wanting to hide. And some just like to have some privacy without the government or corporations sticking their noses in their business.
You really think there are legitimate reasons to actually have Tor? Prove it then.
Only if you can prove your side that it should be taken away.
Fine.
Do you even know how Tor came to be?
At first, I thought it was that book publishing company that does all those sci-fi and fantasy books. But now, I think this one is like military or something or other, right?
Well, kinda. It is built as a so called onion routing project in the US Navy in order to protect military communications from potential enemies. Right from the get go, its intentions was to protect information from those who would take advantage of it and hurt others because of it.
Onion. Can't trust something that leaves a bad taste in your mouth. And you know what they say about good intentions. They pave a path straight to hell, which is exactly what is happening. Sure, the military can hide their information, but so can terrorists now. Overall, it just creates more violence.
But it's not only used to hide information regarding military attacks or other things like that, whether on the side of the military or the terrorists. Governments and police around the world use Tor in order to share information that they don't want to go public, and it's also used in sting operations. So, in that case, it actually helps prevent violence, and it also helps catch criminals. It can also protect information that are coming from informants in dangerous areas from being discovered, so that way what's actually happening in those dangerous areas can get out.
Yeah, the police and government may be using it to take down criminals, whether they're violent or not. But that doesn't stop criminals from using it too. They can actually use it to commit crimes and hide it from sight so no one even knows it's happening.
Like I said earlier, criminals use all sorts of things, like social media when people post when they're going on trips and stuff, and then robbers know when exactly to break in. That doesn't mean Tor systems or anything else should just be taken away because certain people are abusing it. There are some business related benefits as well. Companies use Tor to relay sensitive information between employees so that their competition cannot listen in. And this also lets them get a better idea of what the market is like so they can adjust accordingly not only for their own profit, but to the customer's benefit.
Very true. All kinds of companies benefit from the anonymity provided by Tor, including those illegal companies on the black market like the Silk Road, the underground Amazon of drugs, which utilize a Tor browser to function. They basically undermine all of the efforts of the legitimate companies who use Tor by spying on their competition so they can make better business decisions for their own companies, which causes those legitimate companies to lose out on money.
Well, I guess in that case, it comes down to whether or not the consumer is losing anything by there being a black market. Besides, I'm fairly sure there are plenty of people who'd be upset that they can no longer get their knockoff designer bags.
They're kind of getting off topic.
Well, how about this? Tor offers online protection for those who have sensitive information. This applies to people, a lot of times to informants, on crimes and other bad things. But it can also apply to the average Joe. I mean, it would certainly make logging onto sites that require personal information just that bit more secure, which raises people's confidence in them and has them use them more.
Tor does have good qualities that could be used to enhance privacy in certain circumstances, but the browser is less safe than some may think. IP addresses can be leaked via Adobe Flash and other plugins. Researchers have managed to snag something like 10,000 IP addresses just using one application on Tor.
Well, you run that risk with any browser. More so with a browser that doesn't use Tor. I mean, and then, again, just because you're using Tor doesn't mean you should abandon common sense. Flash and other plugins are always risky, and Tor generally turns those off from the get-go because of that. You do have the option of turning it on, but you're doing so at your own risk. So basically, it's up to you whether or not you have them.
Yeah, but not having those basically decreases the usability of Tor. It doesn't even seem worth it.
Well, you have to decide if giving up such things is worth actually having some privacy. Some people obviously do. I mean, just look at Snowden and others like him. They were able to expose large corruption scandals, but it wouldn't have been possible if they didn't use systems like Tor in order to privately assemble the needed evidence. If anyone had caught wind of what they were up to, they would have suppressed the crap out of it, and no one would have known the truth.
Another great point. But unfortunately, anonymous web browsing has produced more good than bad for those corrupt organizations and the men on the top floor. Business insider tips, stock exploitation, and stock exchange information are fairly common white-collar crimes executed with the help of a Tor browser. It hides these activities and makes it harder for people to find out about them.
Well, I guess that's a good point. But you've got to look at the bigger picture. These whistleblowers often reveal corporate corruption. Journalists also have to have their informants use Tor to protect their identity. Like in war-torn countries, where they report on atrocities using Tor in order to ensure that the militants or others who would do them harm don't find them.
Never mind that these militants are probably using Tor to plan out their activities. In the first place, you're just coming back to the same argument. These people would be better protected if these militants couldn't hide their activities. Then governments could find them more easily and stop them from doing the bad things.
Well then, I'd have to ask whatever happened to having to do the crime before doing the time.
Ever seen Minority Report? The needs of the many outweigh the few.
You want to talk about the needs of the many? Fine. Tor is used to help people avoid censorship. Citizens in certain countries, such as China or Iran, are blocked from certain information and websites by their government. This is partly so they don't see how bad things are in their country or see how good things are elsewhere. Otherwise, these governments control the information they can have, and if you control what people read, you control what they think. With Tor, they can access this data without worrying about repercussions. Modern countries also use Tor to avoid censorship because they're worried about what others, such as the government, would think at seeing their contrary opinions.
But Tor doesn't stop at blocking information and impeding on U.S. citizens' right to information. The unapologetically Big Brother attitude that Tor and its devotees share tries to convince everyone that restricting individual access to information isn't actually censorship at all, but encouragement to expression and communication.
What?
1984? It's supposed to be contradictory? Like how people try to justify censorship by saying it's not limiting access to information, but encouraging expression and communication.
Are you supporting Tor by admitting that it helps avoid censorship that prevents access to information and limits expression? Or are you saying that Tor is Big Brother?
Just forget it. Though there is a possibility that Tor is just a ruse to make people think that they have privacy. So it's really easy to monitor what people are actually doing while they think nobody's watching. And then Tor is also gaining popularity, and this popularity is even attracting the attention of the NSA, which is identifying people who use Tor or Tor-like software as foreign nationals by default, and they will not be treated as United States person unless such person can be positively identified as such, or the nature or circumstances of the person's communications give rise to a reasonable belief that such a person is a United States person. So, Tor users are guilty until proven innocent.
That's a bunch of bullcrap. And it goes again to whatever happened to doing something before being accused. Like I said, Tor services offer protection to people who actually have a reason to hide. Let's take it down to a more personal level than government or corporations or media. Think of people who have been abused, and their abuser is trying to use any method, including online tracking, to find them. Tor can help the person who is abused find information to help themselves and prevent that person from finding them. Basically, it provides a safe communication channel for an ordinary person. It's also sometimes used to prevent identity theft and protect children online.
Okay. There's no denying that Tor can sometimes be helpful to people, such as individuals dealing with stalking and abuse issues. But also think about the ways Tor usage allows terrible crimes to endure.
Such as.
Well, it can prevent law authorities from catching criminals such as child pornographers and provide such criminals with a much more secure space to continue such illegal activities with less chance of being caught. Money laundering, illegal firearms, and creation of counterfeit currency are also all crimes that could be facilitated by the Tor browser. It really isn't just about international terrorists. The digital age domestic criminals also commit heinous crimes while hiding behind Tor.
Well, look who's coming back to the same arguments now. You say Tor is protecting criminals and militants, but they are just a small handful of the people who actually use Tor. Should everyone be punished for a handful of people misusing these services? Does everyone need to be monitored and censored in order for us to have a protected society?
Well, despite all your arguments, you really haven't convinced me. I mean, I can't use Google on Tor, and it's slow because of the multiple relays that it uses, and it uses volunteers to run the show. I mean, these people aren't even getting paid. You can't trust something if it's free, right?
I understand some of your concerns, but you haven't really convinced me either. After all, there's plenty of things that are free or use volunteers in order to happen, like soup kitchens or donation centers. Tor tends to run in the same vein. However, I guess we'll just have to agree to disagree here.
Yeah, I guess. So what do you think of the Marvel Civil War movie coming out next spring?